The Evil Eye Arc is where everything changes. After the craziness of the last arc, things slow down here and become more character driven, focusing on the emotional growth and the relationships of the group, which is what makes this arc so special. It's one of my favourites and it never misses a beat, with the gang drawn together and driven apart. Overcoming the evil eye is such a personal quest, which is at the heart of the challenges of this story. With the moments between Okarun and Momo being some of the most romantic in the series, they grow so much closer in these chapters, emotionally and physically. So let's explore the Evil Eye arc in this episode of Dandadan Retold. And as usual, it's not just a frame by frame. I want to take the time to appreciate and analyze why each moment is so special. Naturally, there's going to be spoilers for the entire arc, guys, so be warned about that. And let's just get to it. The Evil Eye arc begins with Momo meeting Okarun on the way to school, and calling to him so that they can walk together. As the Evil Eye's exorcism was a failure before, Jiji is still possessed, and awaiting specialists to come and deal with it through music that makes it easier to expel the yokai. This means that Jiji's still living with Momo, and the power of the Evil Eye is increasing, as he started to become accustomed to the barrier. After the high intensity of the climax of the Cursed House arc, it's so great to slip back into the normalcy of the slice of life school aspects of the series. We get to see the ways in which the emotional development of the previous events transitions and impacts the day-to-day behavior of the characters. The past few days have been a whirlwind for these two. Within this time frame, they've been driven apart by jealousy, come together and realized their feelings, and even started to kindle a romance through physical touch. So seeing the two of them spending time together without the others around is just so nice. Meeting before school is one of those adorable elements to Okarun and Momo's relationship too. Since the end of their first adventure together and the fight against Turbo Granny, Momo has waited for Okarun before school starts. As they're in separate classes, they don't get to spend all day next to each other, so seeing the two of them try to squeeze as much time together out of the school day as possible shows how close they are, as well as how much they want to see each other. This is so important to Momo specifically. For Momo, these moments with Okarun are times in which she goes out of her way just to see him, and it's one of the core pillars of how she shows her affection for him. She's even willing to end up late in order to make sure that they get to spend this time before school together. And we see this in the one-shot, profoundly mysterious kick the can battle, which we never spoke about in the Cursed House arc video because it's a bonus chapter, but I'm sure that we will one day. The subject of walking to school together is the entire central point to that story, and it has huge ramifications to the way that Momo and Okarun grow together in this arc with... You know what? I can't help myself. We're gonna do it now. Momo's waiting on Okarun so that they can walk to school together in the morning, but he's late. She doesn't leave, however. Momo is willing to be late just to walk to school with Okarun. It's a small sacrifice that shows how much she values these moments with him. Famously, or perhaps infamously at this point, Momo isn't the type of girl to just blurt out and confess her feelings. Momo's actions are at the heart of the way that she shows closeness and love. She invents excuses to create special moments exclusively between the two of them, a way of showcasing her feelings without expressly stating them. This is how she demonstrates her love, so when Okarun suggests that she is to blame for being late, he is, in a way, rejecting her desire to wait for him, which is in turn like a rejection of her expression of affection itself, which then results in a classic Momo storms out situation. Anger and denial is a typical response when Momo is overwhelmed by feelings or frustrated at Okarun not understanding what she wants from him. It hurts her feelings, and she regresses into her thoughts. In this case, going over the hurtfulness of Okarun's bluntness and expressing that it makes her feel like crying. So many people, Okarun included, misunderstand Momo at times. She struggles saying what she feels, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't feel deeply. It's so much harder to express these feelings when you don't know exactly what they are, because she doesn't know how to process what she's feeling either. Despite defeating the big monkey man from outer space, I don't know, Dandadan man, she immediately gets back to being upset at Okarun, telling him not to follow her. She feels pretty deeply hurt by his actions, and that makes a lot of sense. Putting yourself out there and trying to show that you care through an action as simple as just waiting for someone before school is a big deal to someone like Momo. Remember, Okarun isn't really the type of guy to go out on a limb and take the first step. That's always on Momo. So she's always putting herself out there, and this time she feels like an idiot for doing that. Meeting Okarun before school, or telling him it's his turn to say goodbye, or even reaching out to hold his hand in the car is frightening, terrifying because of the potential for rejection. For Momo, it's important to her that Okarun understands that she needs something from him in order for her to truly feel cared for and valued by him. And going out of his way to spend small, intimate and private moments for just the two of them is one of those needs, even if she isn't able to express it, because she's too embarrassed and afraid of these feelings to truly understand them, let alone articulate them. She is a teenager. Fortunately, Okarun was actually buying her a gift, one that he knew that she wanted, and that's why he was late. He was actually thinking of her rather than dismissing her, which means a lot to Momo, especially because her previous boyfriend never really knew her truly, and only wanted to take from her. This is such a great example of Okarun anticipating what Momo wanted and doing it on his own initiative, which is why it's so overwhelming for her. They agree to continue walking to school with each other, and she apologizes for being so mad as they walk away together. In Dandadan, characters aren't afraid to be honest about their mistakes and apologize, and I love this about it. I also adore this one-shot, and I needed to mention it because it adds too much to this plot to be ignored, and it's relevant to the developments between the two of them later in the arc. Also, it directly infers that Momo and Okarun go shopping together, which is really cute. Anyway, back to reality. Meeting in the morning like this is a continuation of their last meeting. They say see you tomorrow at the end of the day and then meet before school the next day. They're the last people that they speak to before the gang splits up, and they're also the first people they want to talk to the next day. It's as if they're counting the seconds between seeing each other. While walking to school, discussing the Eye, Momo tells Okarun that until the Eye is dealt with, the gang will have to manage the situation themselves. She's about to ask Okarun for a favor, and then Miko and Muko show up and jump them on the way to school. Miko asks about Jiji immediately, despite apparently hating playboys. Upon seeing them, Momo jumps on Miko and hugs her, expressing relief at seeing her again after the chaos of what happened at Jiji's house. This whole start to the chapter is great, because it really does give us this feeling of returning back to the normal world. Momo puts it best when she says that it feels like she's come back to reality, while Miko is pretty confused. It's easy to forget that these two have literally zero clue about what goes on with the ghosts and aliens and stuff. Meanwhile, Muko is grabbing Okarun and telling him to give back Momo. Honestly, they know what's up. They practically view the two of them as an item already, and they don't judge that. They just sort of support it and help to chug it along, as we are going to see more of very, very soon. Miko tells them about the volcano eruption and is pretty surprised that Momo doesn't want to talk about it, considering her and Okarun are both considered to be into the occult. In this discussion, Momo and Okarun give each other a look and decide not to explain their involvement in the incident, which makes sense when you think about it because I don't think everybody would get it. But before the conversation continues, Miko tells Momo to get a new phone, but she can't afford one, and Granny Saiko won't cover the cost of the phone considering she's already buying her uniforms. Multiple uniforms, like one every single day at this point. The four of them walk to school where we see Aira, who thankfully does have a significant role in this arc. However, she's in a very different place than when we first saw her join the series. Her popularity is gone, and she's turned into a bit of an outcast. At school, we see Aira going to class. As usual, everyone's looking at her as she walks through the hallways, but this isn't for the same reason as before. Where she used to be watched in awe due to her carefully crafted facade of popularity, an icon of beauty and purity, she's now viewed as duplicitous. When she first met Momo and Okarun in the Serpo arc, she spread lies about Momo around the school to damage her reputation. And after getting to know Momo and having her save her life multiple times, Aira decided to own up to the truth. She told everyone that she was spreading the rumors, and that they were lies and not true, and that everyone should just leave Momo alone. She let her mask slip to protect Momo, someone that she started to consider as a friend and a rival. We're now seeing the consequences of this decision. She's no longer viewed for her purity or her beauty, she's now socially outcast. Even her old best friends see her and quickly turn their backs on her. This is crushing for Aira, and she breaks down in tears. Being popular isn't something that Aira takes lightly, and it's not just about being liked. Being the best, the pinnacle of perfection and the subject of awe, is deeply woven with Aira's being. When her mother passed away, even as a child, she decided to become somebody incredible. So when she's reunited with her mother one day, she can be someone worthy of her mother being proud of her. Since this day, Aira strives to be the best in any domain she exists in, with hobbies, group status, which is why she's obsessed with being the leader, or in this case, socially. The level of work that she put into being Miss Popular was immense, and losing that is so painful. Aira starts to cry because regardless of her reasoning, this mask was the one that helped her understand her place. Sacrificing this meant sacrificing her role in the world. Sacrificing this meant becoming an outcast. And sacrificing this meant becoming nobody. Because without it, who even is she? At this lowest moment, Momo ambushes her, with Okarun looking to chat. She drags her away from class as Aira desperately tries to resist, attempting to default back to her innocent demeanor and save face in front of her class. Fortunately, Momo doesn't care about this facade and tells her to just cut out the act. Aira continues as her class looks on, absolutely bewildered by what they're seeing. To them, the girl that Aira was bad-mouthing, seen practically naked with and then revealed to be lying, is now dragging her off all buddy-like, so it's more than a bit confusing. And in the next scene, we get to see the real Aira. She threatens Momo's life and warns her to not act all pally with her in front of the other students, because she doesn't want to diminish her popularity by being seen with Momo. Momo loves it and is happy to finally see this side of Aira resurface, because this is her real side, which is the beauty of this group. Everyone, Momo, Okarun, Jiji, Aira, they've all had to wear these masks to the world which they can finally put aside when together. They can be just themselves, which is what Aira is being here, for better or for worse. In a lot of ways, this behavior towards Momo is the truest form of Aira. She's driven, competitive, and assertive. Even when she talks to Okarun, she defaults to this ideal cutesy girl in order to try to extract romantic behavior from him, unsuccessfully. But this attitude doesn't mean that she dislikes Momo. Far from it. Momo asks Okarun and Aira to come stay with her at her house until the evil eye is defeated. She expresses that she needs the two of them to come and help so that she can feel comfortable and safe. Okarun and Aira pretend to be reluctant at first, but quickly scream at Momo that they're gonna do it, because they want to all spend time together, so they're quite thrilled about this underneath. The act is a funny social grace, but it's nice to see them all excited. Aira pretends to have plans momentarily, but when Momo brings up her friends, Aira is visibly quite upset. She isn't the type of girl to sit and talk about her feelings, so she keeps them pent up inside. Keeping your real self hidden under layers of facades can make it difficult to know yourself, and in turn, even harder to express your problems. Aira is independent and she doesn't know how to react because her desire to be the best is intrinsically tied to personal accountability. she blames herself. Overall, it's awesome to see Aira back in center stage for this arc, but there's so much that needs to be addressed with her. She's considered part of the group by everyone else, however, I don't think she's gotten to a point where she can admit to herself to put away her pride, come down to earth, and allow herself to just be in this group and care about them all in a real, raw, honest way. Which is what's central to her personal growth in this arc. Because the Evil Eye Arc is heavily character driven. Everyone goes through significant growth as they stay together under the threat that a single drop of water could cause life-threatening chaos. At Momo's house, Jiji is finally able to be separated from Taro. At the end of the last arc, the only way to keep the eye under control was for Jiji to wear Taro on his body, using the sealing papers on his inner parts as a way to keep the eye at bay. Now, Taro has finally completed sealing the eye within Jiji to a point that he doesn't need to be attached to him constantly. He can suppress the eye himself, but he has to be more mindful than ever. Even a drop of cold water is enough to unleash the fury of the evil eye yokai. Easy enough, right? Momo gets home with Okarun and Aira, and Jiji explodes in joy at the sight of Okarun, which is awesome to see because when Jiji was first introduced, it felt like there was an allusion to a love triangle that was going to create this inner group friction. But Dandadan refreshingly stays away from that. Through the hardships of the Cursed House arc, Okarun learned to get over his jealousy, for the most part, and accept Jiji as a dear friend. So seeing the two of them so excited to spend this time together is something I love. Aira shows up in full attire, leaning on Jiji's womanizing attitude as a way to have him take her bag. And for the record, when Aira shows up, she shows up. Saiko supplies everyone with hot water thermoses so that they can splash Jiji if the evil eye is unleashed, before the exorcism can take place. But none of that matters right now. What's most important, it's dinner time, and everyone is living together. This is one of my favorite periods of time in the entire series, because we just get to spend time with the cast. Coming down from the action of everything before, we finally get to see everyone just relaxing together and hanging out. And this is important, because these are the moments that help us remember why we care so much. Everyone's personalities are so different. Sometimes it can be easy to forget how they all mesh together without the imminent threat of something always looming over them. It's why the dinner sequences at the end of each arc are just so wholesome. We get to see how far everyone's grown and how the dynamics have shifted in the group. Seeing Jiji and Okarun talk about video games, or watching Momo inquire about Aira's skin product routine, these are the moments that matter. They show us how each pair of rivals are now bridging the gap to become true friends. This is the first time that all four have spent proper time together as well. I also die when I see Turbo Granny just embracing her life as a cat. She's looking for a fluffy pillow and bugging Momo about it, and that is just the pinnacle of cat behavior. These moments, these really are the best of times, and the worst of times. We can only bask in the moment for so long before reality smashes its way back to center stage. As Okarun passes Saiko some soy sauce, a tiny, single, minuscule drop falls on Jiji's hand. And then, the evil eye emerges and flips the entire table. It's a hilarious shot, as within a single frame, everyone goes from eating and enjoying dinner to being flipped literally upside down, and Jiji's clothes are ripped off by the eye, again, back down to his underwear. Which is important, guys. The underwear is important, you'll see. But needless to say, the evil eye can't be controlled forever by just avoiding liquid. It seems that he has to be exorcised. Soon after, the eye is unleashed. Again. Smashing through the wall of the Ayase house. Saiko, Momo, Aira, and Okarun move quickly to stop him, but he kicks Okarun through a wall and sends him flying. Fortunately, Momo is able to throw hot water on him, stopping the eye and returning Jiji. He apologizes profusely and is met by scorn from Aira, who scolds him for not using hot water when washing his hands. Saiko defends him, citing that it's been really hard on Jiji as well, whilst Turbo Granny hits Jiji with a piece of wood from the damaged wall. The fact of the matter is that the solution isn't to never touch cold water again. It can't be. The house is in disarray and deteriorating quickly from the damage. Momo runs to Okarun outside and makes sure that he's okay, because he took the brunt of the attack. She holds his back to comfort him, as Jiji continues to apologize, and Okarun says that he doesn't mind and that it's fine. It's nice to see that Momo is comfortable touching Okarun here, showing that the physical boundary that they crossed at the end of the last arc is a permanent step. Although it's also a bit sad to see Jiji feeling so responsible for the actions of the Eye. Okarun highlights that the evil eye is growing stronger, and Momo stresses that Jiji can't watch out for every little thing. It's clear that at the current rate, the house will be destroyed by morning. And then this group of weirdos shows up. Saiko just tells them to leave outright, and they swiftly turn to do so. Immediately afterward, Momo stresses that they're just disorganized as a team, pointing to Aira as being especially out of sync. The two get into another argument about it, as Aira views herself as something of a leader, still, which turns into a fight. Their relationship is built on an element of hostility, which is sort of their kind of signature thing, I think. The group of weirdos returns, and it turns out that they are the Hayashi performers. Unlike what was expected earlier, these guys are more like a rock band. Their music has the power to reach the realm of the dead, making the exorcism of the eye all the easier. Momo and Jiji are pumped up by this, whereas Aira is pretty unimpressed and unenthusiastic at their aesthetic. And just like that, the performance of a lifetime begins. The Hayashi performers turn the yard into a concert, which Momo and Okarun are immediately digging. They throw their hands up and make some noise. Jiji lays in anticipation, and they go into full swing. The art in this bit is amazing, and I'm so excited to see this animated in Season 2. Even Aira warms up to the music, and the three of them get totally into it, headbanging to the music. It's such a cool scene, but amid the music, the exorcism is taking hold on Jiji. He sees the eye, the boy that the eye was, crying as he's forcibly being split from Jiji, who starts to convulse on the table. The excitement of the moment soon turns darker as Jiji screams for it to stop. Saiko tells Momo to use her spiritual powers to hold Jiji in place. But just like with Acro's Silky, this acts as a bridge. Momo is able to witness the story of the evil eye. She watches as the boy watched others play, as he suffered alone in his prison. As the three of them watch and dance to the music of the Hayashi performers together, they're doing something that this boy never had the chance to do, and it's not right. Jiji screams, he begs for them to stop. He can't stand the idea that the eye will die in this exorcism. After all, he promised that they would play together. He cries, swearing to do his best to not touch any cold water no matter what. He lays in pain, suffering, begging not to end the pain but to save the eye. Jiji's empathy runs deep. This is so important to him because Jiji, despite his silly behavior, feels so deeply for others. He acts the fool to bring joy into others' lives. Despite everything that the evil eye has done to him, lying to him, betraying him, possessing him, Jiji is still able to understand that this boy just needs a friend. He needs the chance to have that. All of these people, our main cast, are outcasts in some way. They all needed someone, and they found that someone in each other. These bonds are the point. It's the point in living. It's to overcome the loneliness and forge connections that mean something. Jiji sees that, and he can't let the evil eye pass on without having experienced this side to life, the main part of it. He's ready to sacrifice to let that happen. He's a selfless guy. The fact that he can drop his attitude to let this side of himself shine through is a testament of his passion to help. Everyone feels it too, including Saiko, who stops the exorcism with a fire extinguisher and says that they're going to welcome the Eye into the family. Everyone is pretty shocked by Saiko's decision to keep the Eye around, as she sends the Hayashi performers away. Saiko admires when people step up and take a stand for what they believe in, and Jiji showing this side of him, outside of the usual Joker front that he defaults to, is something that she likes. Aira is pretty upset by this decision, as she's worried about her time being wasted. She chooses not to waste her time on Jiji's choice, calling his selflessness a selfishness. I don't think that she's fully accepted her role in the group, nor does she really understand friendship as it should be. In her life, Aira creates bonds with people around her for a self-benefit of sorts. Her relationships are mainly skin deep, as she uses them as a means to attain status or success. This is something reinforced by the fact that all of her friends have ditched her so as to not be dragged down the social ladder now that she's been an outcast for lying about Momo. But the thing about true friendship is that it's easy to be someone's friend in the best of times. But sometimes being a friend is about sacrificing for that person. Jiji cares about this passionately, but frankly this is a burden that he won't be able to carry alone, and he needs support. And Okarun steps up. He says that he will grow stronger, strong enough to take on the Eye and keep him in check. Aira's shocked, asserting that this is a hard responsibility to carry and it will impact him in so many ways, even risking his own life. And Okarun's reason is that, well, Jiji is his friend. Okarun cares deeply about Jiji. They've grown so close, and he is ready to sacrifice his own time to get stronger so he can help Jiji, his friend, carry this burden. As a character, Okarun has gone his whole life alone. He's never had friends up until the moment that Momo walked up in front of his desk on a whim. He grew immensely as a man because of Jiji and learned to overcome his jealousy. These bonds are the single most important thing in his life, and he will defend them no matter what. This is what's so inspiring about Okarun. Despite the timid demeanor and his shy attitude, he's always the first person to put himself on the line to protect those that he cares for. A trait that Momo sees, and one that she values. Momo throws her arm around Okarun and chooses to do the same, to help carry the responsibility too. Yet another example of Momo going out of her way to re-engage a physical rapport with Okarun. But if we've established one thing about Aira, is that she will not be outdone, especially by Momo. Aira also steps up, pushing Okarun and Momo apart to rally at Jiji's side as well. Guys, I know that I can look a bit too deep into characters at times, but I really do think that well-written characters reinforce their motivations through every tiny detail of their actions. Because these guys are so well written. All three of these guys step up to help Jiji, but only when inspired by the thing that they value. Okarun's desire for friendship is what pushes him. Momo is inspired by Okarun's actions as well, and Aira is driven by her competition against Momo. Whatever the reasons, they resolve to help Jiji in his mission. Jiji rushes to hug Okarun as it starts to rain. The would-be hug transforms into the evil eye punching Okarun through the house. This isn't going to be easy, but just like the cardboard they used to patch up the house, they decide that somehow they'll make it work. Getting the evil eye under control will take the combined effort of everybody in the gang. Most of all Jiji, who has to develop his chi. Saiko shows Jiji the basics of controlling his powers in order to root him to the ground. At the moment, he's unable to stay upright when pushed, showing how little control he has over his abilities. unlike Momo who has years of experience, so Jiji can't push her over. Which, as Momo says, is how she got her superpowers. It's great to see this come full circle, as now Jiji has to undertake the exact same training that he mocked Momo for when they were in school together as kids. Saiko makes it clear that this may help him control the evil eye without the need for help, because he has so much chi and potential. But for now, the gang has to be ever vigilant of Jiji, lest he accidentally get a little bit of cold water on him. With the house in tatters, it's even more tricky to keep him dry. We see this in the middle of the night as Jiji gets up to visit the toilet. It's cold and the house is being covered in tape, cardboard and tarps just to keep it dry. Hearing Jiji has gotten up, Okarun follows him and waits outside the bathroom to make sure that he can wash his hands safely with hot water. When she hears them up, Momo also opens the bedroom door to check on them too. This is all so heartwarming. The effort that everybody is going through to watch Jiji shows that they didn't just say that they would help lightly, they genuinely meant it. I'm in love with all the little details of these panels. Everyone's sleepy faces just gives off such a clear vibe of the scene. Everyone's tired and half awake, and Aira is knocked out. It's just great. Jiji thanks Okarun as he goes out of his way to take real ownership of the situation to protect Jiji from the evening dew. They also have a pretty personal moment too. Jiji expresses that he's sorry for the trouble that he's putting them through. Jiji's the kind of guy who feels guilt pretty easily, which is part of why he adopts his childish persona. It means no one takes him serious enough to be hurt by his words, because he's just kidding around all the time. Okarun tells Jiji to not apologize, and that they're all in it together. He tells Jiji that when Turbo Granny cursed him, Momo and Saiko went through so much effort to look after him. But when he brought her money, she refused it, telling him to pass it on to the next person that he sees that needs help. Because that's what it means to be in it together. Learning these lessons is something Okarun takes seriously, and this wisdom from Saiko helps mold him. He admires Saiko a lot, and he wants to be more like her. I feel like this experience makes Jiji and Okarun a little bit closer, which is really nice, as they have a great friendship. And Okarun just seems so much more sure of himself in this arc. He's more confident, more impassioned, and less nervous about every single word that he says. In the morning, we see the girls waking up. Momo's chaotic energy has resulted in her somehow noodling her way out of the covers and being exposed to the cold, which is contrasted against Aira, who spends her time in the morning putting herself together, straightening her hair, doing her makeup before breakfast, the works. While everybody else is in morning mode, barely awake, Aira is in perfect form at the table. In an attempt to win over Okarun's affections, she gets him extra rice in the morning and is super helpful to him, in spite of Momo wanting the same treatment, to which Aira tells her to get it herself. Their rivalry is pretty squarely centered on Takakura. She continues to fawn over him on the way to school, ensuring that he has everything that he needs for the day's lessons. She also begins to poke fun at how Momo sleeps to embarrass her in front of Okarun, saying that she's a restless sleeper and that she steals her lotion without asking. But Momo bites back by saying that Aira grinds her teeth in her sleep, getting a rise out of her. During this, Okarun looks really pleased. I think that this is all he's ever wanted, to just be among friends. Despite the stress of the evil eye, this is a great time. But the house won't pay to fix itself. In class, Momo announces to Miko and Muko that she's going to get a part-time job so she can help to pay to fix up her house after the damage from the evil eye. They ask her about getting a new phone, but Momo makes it pretty clear that she just wants to live in warmth. The girls, once again showing themselves to be the best friends in any fiction ever, tell Momo about a possible opportunity in a restaurant. She jumps at the chance, but they highlight that Momo has a tendency to fight with her bosses. She says that she just hates injustice, which Moko says is pretty cool. And to be fair, it is pretty cool. But she makes it clear that she won't sweat the small stuff and will work hard. And just like that, Momo has a part-time job. And just like that, the girls hatch a plan to cause mischief. Miko and Muko go to Okarun's class at the end of the day and let him know that Momo is working after school and won't be around to walk home with him. And so, Okarun can hang out with the two of them instead. They drag him off from class and he yells in opposition, declining the invite adamantly. But the two aren't taking no for an answer. Some of the class pick up on this and look on kinda disturbed, but that's a story for a future arc. The girls drag Okarun out of school to have tea with them. He tells them that he doesn't go on dates, but they reassure him that it's not a date, asking him if Jiji and Momo had tea together. Would that be a date? To which he outright says no, it wouldn't. They seriously have his number, and these two absolutely know that Momo and Okarun have a crush on each other, and they can also see the Jiji jealousy clear as day. They are like the quintessential Momo-Okarun shippers. It's crazy. I adore them so much. Every chapter that they're in brings me so much joy. They arrive and Okarun relents, saying he won't drink a drop of tea, and Miko tells him that she doesn't care, as they go into Moe Moe Kikihoko. And then their plans are unveiled. Momo is working there as a maid. Upon seeing each other, they practically melt down. The girls knew exactly what they were doing, and they brought Okarun to mess with Momo. They also see how good Okarun is for Momo, and they're clearly trying to push the two of them together. Literally in this case, as Miko pushes Okarun towards Momo and insists that she serves him as a customer, and Momo can't even bear to look at him. She isn't showing enough enthusiasm, and Miko gets her scolded to ensure that they get the full experience, especially Okarun. The embarrassment shines through as she timidly insults Okarun, which practically kills him. She's told off again, and the three of them are seated, with Momo waiting on them. The girls go ahead and order as Momo kneels beside the table next to Okarun. The two of them lock eyes for a second and swiftly look away from each other, mortified by the embarrassment of the moment. Miko pokes fun at Okarun, saying that he didn't want anything on the way, but he changes his mind, not wanting the effort made by Momo to go to waste. She pours out the tea with her friends mocking her the whole time. Ultimately, the event ends with Okarun and Momo stood beside each other, hands over their hearts as they make the Moe Moe tri-beam together. At the end of the session, Momo sees them off at the front door, as her friends continue to make fun of her. She's angry that it's not the restaurant job that they alluded to, and is annoyed by the fact that they came just to make fun of her, shooing them away. The girls call on Okarun to go with them, but he doesn't. He decides to stay, which sends both of them into crazy gossip mode again, before telling them to have fun and leaving. Now the two of them are alone. Momo tells him to go home because Jiji must be waiting. He apologizes to Momo, saying sorry for barging into her place of work, and she tells him that he should be sorry and to never, ever come back. The two of them are stood there in the cold, and Okarun asks her what time she's working until. When he learns that she's working until 10 PM, he tells her that he's going to stay until her shift is over. Momo acts annoyed about this and tells him that he should leave. She puts her foot down and says that it's too cold. When he tells her that it's dangerous for a girl to go home alone at night, she continues to reject him, telling him that she's tough enough to look after herself. Okarun seemingly takes this as a rejection, and then he leaves. But Momo watches him, longingly, as he walks away. She's going to miss him, even if she was embarrassed. She did like that he was nearby. Like I said earlier, Momo tries to rinse as much time out of her day to spend it with Okarun, whether that's walking to school or having lunch or just saying, "See you tomorrow." It's important to her because she likes him a lot. Watching Okarun walk away is a sadness because she doesn't want to be apart. Alas, she has work, She goes back inside and looks at the clock, and there are still hours until home time, so she gets back to it, serving customers left and right. 10 PM hits and it's time to go home. She heads outside and looks around for Okarun. Despite all the bluster of wanting him to leave and that she doesn't need him around, angrily telling him to head off, part of her hoped that he would stay. And like I said, Momo isn't the type of girl to just announce what she wants, especially when she's confused about the exact feelings that are driving her desires. Part of Momo just wants Okarun to know what to do, and she wants him to care enough to figure it out naturally without being told. But she decides to just head home. After all, it was surely too much to expect him to stay. And then, out of the crowd, Okarun appears. He runs up to her and asks if she's done with work. She's shocked. She asks him why. Why didn't he go home? And he tells her that he couldn't leave her to walk home alone because it's dangerous. For Momo, her feelings are confusing. She doesn't really fully know what it is that she is feeling right now, and so in typical fashion, she got overwhelmed and told him to leave despite not really wanting him to do that. There's something comforting about somebody else just knowing what to do and making the choice for you to do it. It cuts through all of that confusion, rather than having to make a decision about what she wants to come of this situation when she doesn't really know. Okarun just naturally does it for her. Where she normally has to be the one to act to show affection, this time he takes it out of her hands. He lets her just feel the moment without having to be the one to choose to take that first step. He knew what she wanted more than even she did, alluding to a deeper understanding between the two of them. But most of all, it just shows that he cares. He cared enough to wait for nearly 5 hours for her to be ready. The ending of the last arc showed us a yearning between them for something more. Their desire to grow closer was on full display even if they never really spoke about it. And this is the thing with them. They never actually speak about what it is that they feel, as if keeping these feelings inside and not vocalizing them will force it to stay at bay and under their control. But their feelings, this love, is more powerful than that. They can't hide from it, run from it, or fight it. Ignoring it will not make it go away, and it's going to force itself to be acknowledged in spontaneous actions driven by an uncontrollable feeling. Feelings which Momo has welling up inside her at this very moment. She takes this opportunity away from the chaos of the house, away from the judgment and the interruptions of the others, to just reach out and hold his hand, hidden beneath a pretty weak excuse of it being cold out. Since their first time holding each other in the face of death, the two of them have come to the realization that they are more than just friends. It's too scary to speak about, but who cares? It's not clear to either of them what precisely this is, but does that matter? In this moment, it's not remotely important. All that matters is the feeling and the actions born from the now. A perfect moment in the now in which they can both just hold each other and express their inner selves without having to label it or even talk about it. Because regardless of all of it, a barrier has been crossed, and their romance is coming more and more into focus. They walk home together, hand in hand, worrying about nothing outside of this moment. Back at home, Jiji's training has been going exceptionally well. In a short span of time, he's mastered the training laid out by Saiko, and now Manjiro can't even get him to budge, even with all of his force behind his push. Jiji is a serious prodigy, and this is a testament to that. He has so much potential locked away, and he's taking his first steps into developing that. The next step is to try a drop of soy sauce, to contain the eye even with a drop of liquid on his skin. Saiko tells Jiji to believe in himself as they drop the soy sauce on him. He struggles as the eye starts to take over, but he summons everything he can, musters all of his strength, and manages to keep the eye at bay. Manjiro and Saiko are shocked, amazed at his power. But doing so took all of his strength, and Saiko warns him not to become complacent, as room temperature liquids are just stage 1, and that colder liquids will be much harder. Okarun and Momo return, and Saiko is upset that they're so late. Momo gives her attitude and drinks some hot water to heat up from being outside in the cold, as Jiji and Aira run over. Jiji wants to tell Momo about the fact that he held back the eye with his own power, and Aira wants to know exactly why Okarun and Momo were out together at night, alone. But in the frenzy, Jiji and Aira collide. Her bubble tea spills all over Jiji. Saiko, Okarun, and Momo race to get hot water and throw it on him, but the eye has gotten wise to their tricks. He throws up a spiritual house to protect himself from the hot water, expanding it to trap Momo inside with him. He approaches her with the stare of death in his eyes. Okarun screams and slams his fist against the house to get the eye to turn his attention away from Momo. Saiko tries to use a seal to stop the house, but is blown away by his power. Okarun transforms, but it's useless. He's helpless. All he can do is watch, while the evil eye grabs Momo, ready to strike. The eye pulls at her shirt and swings at Momo, who barely manages to defend herself with her spiritual powers. But it's no good. The eye grabs her by the neck, squeezing. And then she spits hot water into his face. Back when they entered the house, Momo never swallowed that hot water, thankfully, and cleverly used it to turn him back into Jiji. Now Jiji, with his hands where the evil eye left them, looks at Momo, horrified by what he was about to do. He backs away as she coughs from the pain. He stammers and apologizes to her, shocked that his body could have done this, and she assures him that it's fine. But Okarun rushes in and aggressively shoves Jiji away from Momo, tending to her and fussing over her to make sure that she's okay. She takes it like a champ and immediately starts joking around with Okarun, but he tells her it's not funny and takes off his jacket to wrap around her, making sure she's covered and okay. Normally I love this kind of stuff between them, but this scene is painful. Jiji watches vacantly, so shook by what he almost did. Saiko tends to him and tells him that it wasn't his fault and that it's all okay. But that doesn't help. Jiji doesn't say a word and watches Okarun and Momo together. A rift is torn in the group here. A complete inversion of the previous night. I feel so sorry for Jiji here. He hurt somebody that he really cares for and then watches on as she connects with somebody else. One of his close friends. Beneath Jiji's foolish exterior lies a guy who is filled with guilt and sadness, which this event brings to the surface for him. Similarly, Aira feels pretty guilty as well. She partially blames herself for what happened. Despite constantly telling Jiji off for his carelessness, she was careless too. After all, it was her drink that spilled on him. We don't often see Aira own up to a mistake. For her, someone who strives to perfection, admitting a mistake is more than just vulnerability. It's an admission of imperfection, of falling short. She dreads it, but tells Momo that she's sorry. Because even though they argue, she clearly cares about Momo as a friend. And she's one of the only friends she has now. And this is a friendship that's not born from popularity or what they can get from each other. It's true. It's a humanizing moment, and the fact that Momo lets her off the hook without making a big deal of it is really important to her. Making a mistake before is what cost Aira all of her friends. So she's terrified that in admitting that she was in the wrong, that somehow this means that this friendship would be damaged as well. Aira is upset with herself. She needs to be better. She needs to be stronger. Similarly, in the next room, Okarun and Jiji ignore each other completely, looking opposite ways. It seems that their friendship may be broken irreparably. The two of them first came together through this shared affection for Momo, and so it would seem, that hurting her is what may drive them apart. Okarun tightens his fist and stares at it. He needs to be better. He needs to be stronger. The next day, Okarun goes to visit Peeny Weeny, or Mr. Shrimp if you prefer to call him that. He's disguised as a human now so he can fit in on Earth, and Okarun loses his mind over this fact. It's easy to forget that Okarun is obsessed with the occult, and this is a big deal for him. This is an alien in front of him. But he quickly comes back to the topic for his visit. He wants to ask Shrimp for a favour, to take him on as a disciple and teach him how to punch. Shrimp says no way, because violence is wrong. And for the rest of the day, Okarun helps Shrimp at work. He gets back to the Ayase household and tells himself that he's going to go back and learn tomorrow. As he walks into the house, he locks eyes with Jiji, who swiftly bolts his attention away from Okarun. The two of them can't even look at each other. This is a complete inversion of their original meeting, where Okarun was intimidated by Jiji's presence. Now he can't bear to be around Okarun out of guilt for what he did, and ultimately scared that Okarun may hate him now, after what he did to Momo. It's sad to see them this way because they just made so much progress together earlier. Manjiro takes Saiko out back and tells her that this can't go on. It was a bad idea to begin with, and that regardless of what Saiko, his master, thinks, he's going to call the Hayashi band and perform the ritual. Saiko stops him and tells him that she struggles to accept it because at the end of the day, they're all still children. She wishes she could shoulder the burden for them as an adult and let them live freely without the pain that comes with responsibility. But Manjiro tells her that even though he also admires Jiji's spirit, it was an impossible mission to begin with, and that they should also learn to accept reality. As Saiko looks off towards the stars, she lingers on how sad this outcome really is. Meanwhile, Okarun is training himself. He wants to get stronger, but he has no idea where to even begin. He hasn't really got any fighting experience. All of his fights so far have revolved around almost entirely using his head. And I mean literally. And some general luck. Turbo Granny walks past and mocks him for his pitiful technique. Okarun tells her that he wants to toughen up, and she asks him what for. Okarun tells her that he's pissed. All the time, he wants to overpower the Eye and can't stand that he's weaker than him. And Turbo Granny approves. She asks him if he wants to learn to punch or he wants to learn to get strong. Okarun is confused at the distinction, but she assures him that they are not the same. Throwing a punch won't be enough to defeat the Evil Eye, and alludes to the fact that Okarun isn't tapping into her immense powers, so she asks him again, do you want to learn how to throw a punch, or do you want to become strong? And he tells her that he wants to become strong, and she says, come with me, as they walk off down the street. Aira watches them, peering around the corner, and runs after them to their destination. They arrive at the school, and Turbo Granny tells Okarun that she's sick of him using her powers, yet still being so weak, insulted, so she is going to train him how to be better. Even though Turbo Granny started off as an enemy, I think it's pretty clear that she cares about the gang enough to want to help, even if she hides it behind this idea that she can't stand seeing him waste her powers potential. Together, the two break into the school as Aira runs up and questions Okarun on what he's up to. Turbo Granny tries to get him to ditch her, and he tells Aira to please just don't tell anyone, but she follows anyway, not leaving until she finds out the truth. She's cutesy and bubbly with Okarun, who she likes a lot but turns into Acro Silky and threatens Turbo Granny when she's sick of taking her insults. Okarun stops their infighting and just tells Aira that he wants to get stronger, which is perfect because she wants to get stronger as well. Both of these two were granted their yokai powers but have had little training to help develop them, so taking this time to learn more is pretty crucial. Okarun can improve to fight the Eye, and Aira can cover her imperfections. Aira assures Okarun that she doesn't use bad language and that Acro Silky is responsible for that. She pretends to be scared so that Okarun will comfort her as an excuse to get closer. But then Turbo Granny slams down on a piano and causes her to Dandadan and smack Okarun in the face. This is the training. Turbo Granny tells Okarun to jump in time with the notes she plays. That is Okarun's combat rhythm, which she then compares against the Evil Eye's. This is his. This is Okarun, and this is the Eye. This isn't about speed, as Turbo Granny highlights the fact that she is way faster than the Evil Eye is about technique. Okarun simply just moves too monotonously. The Eye and Acro Silky can move twice as fluidly as he can in a single beat. He needs to fit more actions into each move, like fitting more notes into a single musical beat. Which is why they're in the music room, to synchronize their sounds and optimize their fight rhythms, to face a new enemy, materialized and given the form of some great composers from history. Aira and Okarun try to leave, but Turbo Granny gets the attention of the paintings, and so their attack begins. Their music is the attack. Musical notes hit Okarun in his yokai form and explode on him. The test here is to dodge the musical notes using the philosophy that Turbo Granny laid out to create more fluid movement per beat. Beethoven transports them to a rice paddy. Sorry, this series is ridiculous. Creating a more unstable ground for Okarun and Aira to fight on, as the spectral composers increase their tempo, intensifying the challenge. Aira moves fast and shows off her agility. After all, she can match the Evil Eye's rhythm, dodging each of the notes that are thrown at her. Okarun admires her movement, and Turbo Granny tells him to move more like her. But he's then frozen by one of the symbols and hit by another bomb, injuring him and knocking him out of his yokai form. Aira takes them all on, and she holds her own, while Okarun sits and laments his own inability. Turbo Granny is sick of this and tells him to get up and find his sense of rhythm, as Aira won't be able to hold out alone now that the tempo is increasing more. This is training, so Turbo Granny imparts some advice to him. He doesn't need to understand this specific performance or this specific song, he just needs to latch onto a rhythm that he knows, from a song that inspires him. Okarun is far from a music aficionado, so he struggles, but then he remembers the Hayashi Band's performance. When he heard the music, he got into it and headbanged to the beat, in time with the tempo, and this is what he draws from. Meanwhile, Aira is struggling to find an opening amongst their barrage, and she's eventually outmatched and is about to be hit by a flurry of exploding notes, which hit and blow up. But Okarun grabs her, moving faster than before, drawing from the rhythm of the Hayashi Band in his head, headbanging his way through the classical music with the power of rock. Turbo Granny is finally impressed and is loving going fast again. Aira takes out the conductor, and oh me, oh my, it's dance party time. Without the conductor, they can no longer fly, as the 9th Symphony move is activated, transporting them away into a concert hall. While the barrage of notes will no longer work, the audience of illusions are pulled into combat and attack Okarun and Aira en masse. Turbo Granny tells them to ignore them and to focus on the musicians, telling Aira to send her up into the air to locate them. The musicians are hiding behind the giants. The attackers are about to get the better of them, but then Aira calls for Okarun's hand. They reach out and grab one another, as Aira pulls them into the air with her hair. Aira gets the giants to fight each other, and tells Okarun to just go on without her, and that she'll take on the giants herself. What's awesome here is that we are seeing Aira take on those leadership qualities that she often refers to. She's competent, decisive, and a quick thinker. We also see that she's more driven to improve than anybody else. As she's hit, she thinks back to Momo, under attack from the Evil Eye. She failed them because she wasn't good enough. She wasn't strong enough to stop him, and she refuses to allow that to happen here. She pushes through the pain and continues to fight using her immense agility and rhythm and quick mind to defeat the giants by using her hair to wrap them up and have them fight each other. followed by a pretty badass pose and a one-liner. I think it's safe to say that Aira has gotten stronger through this battle and really started to embrace her abilities. Meanwhile, Okarun is faced with 5 musicians. He needs to act fast to defeat them or they will just summon more. But there's one problem. He can only go all out twice. Turbo Granny tells him that one blast for each of them won't be fast enough to defeat them all. He needs to dig deep, find his rhythm and draw from Turbo Granny's immense power to pull off 5 notes in a single beat. Okarun fires off, using the rhythm of the Hayashi, and he pulls it off somehow. He summons more agility than Aira or the Evil Eye, who can only do 4 actions per movement. And Okarun's done it. He's gotten stronger thanks to Turbo Granny. And just like that, the paintings are defeated. Okarun runs up to Aira to check on her. He thanks her for her efforts, letting her know that he couldn't have possibly done it without her. She's about to respond in her typical way, all cute and complimenting him back, but she can't. She just can't bring herself to do it. Her usual self, the facade that she wears, can't be brought to bear. Because this moment meant something more than just an accomplishment of her mask. This moment was something real. She drew upon her actual strength, not to prove something to the world, but to push herself to be better and stronger in her heart. When Aira pushed herself past her limits, she didn't just do it for herself or for her image. She did it so she could protect her friend. And Okarun acknowledging her for this struck to the core of her very being. It truly connected with her soul. They're as ready as they possibly could be. So it's time to go and fight the Evil Eye one last time. Manjiro has had enough waiting. He sits everyone down and tells them that it's time to just call the Hayashi performers back again to exorcise the eye. He tells everyone that enough is enough and that at this rate somebody will end up dead, telling him that he'll end up killing Saiko or Momo if he doesn't choose to sacrifice the eye, and that he'll never be able to live with his parents again or have a normal life. Manjiro says that he's already called for them anyway, and that it's happening no matter what. Momo gets upset and shouts at him, saying that it's so unfair for him to choose to do this all by himself. She shouts at her grandma, saying that she told them that they were a family and that Jiji has been pushing himself to get stronger. Momo's dedication to her friends and doing what's right is admirable. There's a rift between the idealism of children versus the appeal to reality of adults. Even Saiko is torn between these two worlds because she has a responsibility to her granddaughter above all else. It seems that the exorcism is going to happen. And then, from outside, Jin and Joji is shouted upon. He's been told to get outside now by none other than Okarun. Okarun and Aira stand in the courtyard, opposite from Momo and Jiji. He stares down Jiji. His motivations are unclear, but the air of confrontation is palpable. Momo asks him what he's doing and where has he been with Aira so late. Okarun tells Aira to hand him the water, and Momo starts to get really annoyed. He tells everyone to back off, that this is between him and the eye, and that he's going to beat the eye to a pulp. She tells him that this isn't a game, and that she's getting seriously vexed at his behaviour. Okarun cuts Momo off and tells her that he was angry. He was so angry when the evil eye attacked her. He thought that they could do something about the eye. He thought that they could overcome his cunning, savage nature to bring him into the family. Okarun sees that this could never happen. The relationship between Jiji and Okarun has gone through so many changes since they first met. Jealousy, envy, friendship, rage, and now it's all come to a head. The rivalry between the two of them has been transposed onto Okarun's relationship with the eye. His friendship with Jiji is at a tipping point at this stage. Okarun addresses everyone, saying that he sees them trying to accept the eye, that it's totally weird. and it's totally badass. He isn't mad because they're trying to accept him, and he isn't mad that Jiji was taken over, and that the Eye tried to hurt Momo, the woman that he loves. Okarun is angry at himself. He's angry for being too weak to protect her and everybody else that he cares about for that matter. He doesn't blame Jiji, he swore to help his dear friend, and he swears again. Okarun swears to Jiji that he will protect his wish, to protect the evil eye. Manjiro walks out to stop it, dedicated to the exorcism, but Saiko steps in and tells him to stop, that Okarun has fire in his words and that this moment is crucial. And she's right. Okarun just goes along with people's ideas normally. He rarely takes a stand and puts his foot down and decides for himself and everybody else what's going to be done. This is the moment that Okarun shows himself and everyone else what he's worth. He tells Momo to back away. Turbo Granny takes a seat on his shoulder and Aira prepares to unleash the evil eye. Jiji pleads with Okarun, putting all of his hope in his friend, to help the eye. This is the last chance to do something to save it, which is still Jiji's main concern. And Okarun tells him that he's got it. This is the culmination of their shared arc. Since the moment that they met, their dynamic has grown and regressed, and now it comes to its final moment, where Okarun once crumbled in the face of Jiji, walking through Momo's door for the first time as a rival. Now Okarun stands to fight him, not out of hate or jealousy, but as a friend, looking to protect his wishes. He's unleashed, blasting out of Jiji's clothes and down to his underwear once more. Okarun charges at full force towards the Eye, who fires a barrage of cursed energy at Okarun. Manjiro and Saiko are astonished at the Eye's power as Momo calls out to Okarun in fear. But this is not the same Okarun that they knew. His training is paying off. He easily dodges everything that the Eye can throw at him, using his newfound rhythm to find new attack windows, stopping the Eye from even touching him. Okarun dodges his moves and launches him into the air, combining his strength training with the lessons that he learned earlier that night to hit the Eye with 5 moves in a single beat. His ferocity is remarkable. He's closer to a demon than he is a man, and the Eye can't get enough of it. This is what he's been waiting for. This is what he's been waiting for 200 years. He's waited to play, and now he finally has it. Okarun goes all out and obliterates the Eye, smashing him through the house and destroying it completely. Okarun's powers truly are immense, but ultimately spent, as he used both of his all-outs that night. The Eye loves it and he wants to fight more, but Okarun hasn't got any more to give. And now he has to quickly think, as he tells everyone to stay back. Calling for help would mean that the Eye would need to be exorcised. Momo watches on, concerned for Okarun, but everybody stays back. The Eye is goading him into changing back as Turbo Granny pokes at Okarun. Does he need help from the others? His legs are shaking and he can barely stand. But he can't do that, because doing that would be an admission that he isn't strong enough. It would be like always, where he gets others to help him. He couldn't control the Eye at the cursed house, and had to rely on Momo saving him. He needs to do it himself this time, one way or another. The Eye tells him to change back again, but Okarun says no. He refuses to bully a weakling, and the Eye has shown himself to be one. Okarun tells the Eye that if he can get stronger, then he'll fight him again, and the Eye swears that he'll do that, on one condition: that he only fights Okarun and no one else, because Okarun doesn't want to fight someone who fights other people. Everyone's shocked, except Saiko, who absolutely loves what she's seeing. While Okarun hashes out terms and conditions with the Eye about their fighting schedule, Turbo Granny walks to Momo, who tells her that this was Okarun's plan all along. He wanted to become the Evil Eye's playmate, his friend. Okarun has always wanted friends, and now that he has them, he sees all the incredible purpose that they bring into his life. He wanted to protect his friends by becoming the Evil Eye's only target, and in the process give the Evil Eye the gift of friendship as well. Ultimately, the Eye and Okarun come to an agreement that they'll only fight after school on a Tuesday, and that the Evil Eye will only kill Okarun and nobody else. The Eye agrees and hands over his signature tidy-whities to Okarun, which becomes the cursed object that holds his desire to kill all humans within. Without them, he's freed of his murderous intent towards all people. And Aira and Momo are flustered and look away at the sight of Jiji's, banana. The Eye says it's going to be fun, while changing back into Jiji, willingly, for the first time. Okarun tells him that he didn't hurt anyone, and he never will in the future, as Jiji breaks down. They can go back to an ordinary life, after all. And just like that, it's over. With the containment of the cursed underwear kept safely locked away at Manjiro's shrine, everybody can go back to their normal lives. Momo tells him that she's excited to visit the shrine again in the future, but to make sure that they have a real Tsuchinoko snake this time. He can't promise that, but he definitely will become a full-time sleeping bag bootuber. Weird, but okay. And off he goes. Someone shows up and calls for Miss Ayase, to which both Saiko and Momo respond, which is quite funny. They're so similar, but it can be easy to forget that they're gran and granddaughter at times. It's Jiji's parents, who are finally out of the hospital and ready to take Jiji home with them. They thank Saiko for taking care of him, and she, out of nowhere, becomes a normal human being, and apologizing for the inadequacies of her care for Jiji. She's being polite? Okarun and Aira are just as shocked as I am. Saiko tells him that the curse is still in him, and that it's his responsibility to keep up his training to ensure that nothing bad happens, and if it does, to come back immediately. Jiji apologizes for all the stress and difficulties brought into everybody's life, and swears that he'll never forget the debt that he owes them. Momo tells him that he shouldn't stress about it, while Aira tells him that he should pay them back then, which is hilariously Aira. She's such a hard ass, man. Turbo Granny also steals the gift, which I presume is food. And just like that, it's time for Okarun and Aira to leave as well. Even though this has been far from a holiday, there is a bit of a sadness to everybody parting and going their separate ways here. They got to stay together for so long, and without each other around, things are just gonna kinda go back to normal. Momo thanks them both as Aira and Okarun are about to head off. And he turns to Momo and thanks her for letting him stay, as well as to do their typical goodbye ritual, telling her that he's going to see her tomorrow. Momo doesn't say it back. She looks at Okarun dead on and asks him if that's all that he has to say. The nature of their relationship is so unclear right now. They're clearly more than friends, but also less than lovers. Something has been brewing between them for a while now, and whilst the actions are sweet and intimate, I think Momo now wants more. Something more solid. They never speak about it. They hold hands now and have these intimate moments that show each other that they care deeply, but they never articulate what these moments really mean to them. After walking home, hand in hand, and living together, Momo has come to her conclusion that she really does care for Okarun. She's in love with him, and I think she's starting to realize that not only can she not run from it, but she doesn't want to. She wants some kind of verbal acknowledgement that it's not just her feeling these emotions. And Okarun plays stupid while Momo innocently prods at him, trying to goad him into giving her something more. I don't think she knows what she wants him to say exactly, but she wants something from this, something to show that those moments have meant as much to him as they did to her. Their relationship has shifted a lot across the series so far. They were strangers, thrust together through circumstance. They bonded together in an indescribable way, and each wrestled with their jealousy to discover these feelings, which is love. Now they stand across the aisle from each other, each ready to take a final step towards the other, but neither of them want to go first. And this is just a snippet of what's to come, the behaviors that they're going to be exhibiting in response to their feelings. Momo isn't able to articulate it, but she knows that she feels something incredible and overwhelming for Okarun, and Okarun feels them too, but out of fear of overstepping, he plays stupid. So Momo pushes him to try to reveal his feelings while not revealing hers out of fear of her own rejection. Get used to this dynamic, guys, because it's here to stay for a little while. Aira busts in and tussles with Momo over Okarun, and the two of them leave. As Momo watches them together, blushing. We've seen it many times before, but here we see it again. Their feelings continue to deepen, and she's going to miss him. But anyway, it's going to be quieter now that they're gone. Speaking of which, they have no house. Rather than dealing with it now, Sayako decides to take Momo and Turbo Granny to the bathhouse. Even Hana goes. I can't imagine what the staff thought as they carried in this anatomical model and a Maneki Neko to use the baths in there, but whatever. In the next scene, Sayako lets Momo know that they're homeless and have no funds to rebuild the house. Momo starts losing her mind at the fact that Sayako is always so generous when people are over, and she's panicked by the fact that they have no home. Sayako's unfazed, just like with Jiji, she's shouldering the burden again. Momo wants to help, but she isn't interested in letting her. Momo shows concern for her as a grandma, a smoking hot grandma, but a grandma nevertheless. Sayako tells her to not underestimate the power of grandmas. They then both realize that they have lost all of their stuff as well, including Momo's Ken Takakura stuff. And then an alien appears in front of them and they both attack it. As they are about to beat it up, Okarun, Aira, Peeny Weeny, and Chiquita interrupt. They didn't go home, they went to Mr. Shrimp's house to get help in rebuilding their home, who introduced them to Mr. Ludrus. Momo apologizes for hitting him and he gets maybe upset or maybe fine with it, I don't know, I don't really speak alien. Sayako's pride disallows her from getting help, but Okarun relents. He tells her that they need help and he wants to pass it on. Just like Sayako said to him all that time ago, this is what it means to be in it together. Momo is thrilled for the help, and Ludrus introduces them to Nanoskin. It morphs and forms into whatever shape you imagine to rebuild the home, and before long, it's all back. We don't get an end of arc dinner like we normally do, but frankly, I think that rebuilding the house serves that same purpose. Sayako normally is the one to splash out and provide the kids with everything she can on her own steam. So much of this arc is about giving. The act of giving for those who need it because, well, because they need it. Sayako plants the seed of an idea in Okarun, who passes it on to Jiji when up at night, and eventually Okarun repays the debt to Sayako by being there when they needed him to be. And Jiji also tries to repay the debt he owes her, but is ever so slightly too late. Living together pushed everyone closer. They're no longer strangers brought together by circumstance. They help each other because they care about each other. To end the arc, Okarun tells Momo that he's happy that the house is back together again, because somehow he feels like it's become his home too, and that is important to him, and that it is important to him that it remains safe and sound. Momo tells him that he's always welcome, and that she loves them all. This arc shows us the power of caring, and how each of these characters have become a family. How family is built, like a house, brick by brick. In spite of all of these hardships that they've faced over the past few days, they rallied together, grew stronger, and became a family. Something that they'll need to lean on in the arcs to come, as something looms over the horizon. their greatest threat yet.